Hi, I'm Stacy from Lee and Stacy Do Finance. Today we are closing out our July 2020 budget. We've finally made it to August, and well, we'll see how July went for us, I guess. All right, so if you've seen YNAB before, the first thing, or maybe even if you haven't, the first thing that might jump out at you is this big red section. And it looks like because August 1st, which is, we always pay our mortgage on the first day of the month, unless it falls on a holiday or weekend. And of course, it fell on a weekend, so they pulled the money out of our bank accounts the day early, so that means we technically made 2 mortgage payments in the month of July. But when I look at the calendar, it looks like the September payment won't come out until September 1st because it falls on a Tuesday, so we should be good there. So what I'm going to do quickly just to remedy that, because we do have money set aside for it and it's currently in our August budget, but it was paid in July, so we're going to move it from August to July, and that'll make it green. We won't see anything come out in August, so everything should be good. So I'm back into August now. I'm going to remove that $530 here and add that here. Now that is zeroed out and our budgets between the months will balance out properly. So as to the rest of the month of July, everything else is green, with the exception of this blue, just because there's a dated goal on there, and we haven't been funding it because we've been prioritizing something else first. So everything else is either gray or green, which just means that we don't have a goal for it. Okay, so our Amazon card had a negative budgeted amount of $32.86, but that's just because we used points to make that payment, so that freed up $32.86 that we would otherwise have to pay from somewhere in our budget. So that's why that's negative. If we were paying down credit cards, if our balance wasn't at 0 every month, then we would have whatever the extra amount of payment that we were paying would go into that category. Since it's paid off every month, that just happens through the activity, and the payment is what's showing us how much has been pulled from the other budget categories to pay for what we already have. And it's green because it's fully funded, because we didn't go over in the other budgets when we did that spending. So investments and emergency fund, we didn't do anything with. It looks like we got a little bit of interest in our bank accounts, and that just automatically gets applied to our investments account. As that dollar amount goes up, I might make a payment to our Roths, or it might get pulled towards our debt repayment. We'll see when that time comes. So we had our 2 mortgage payments, again, the one for July and the one for August that went through. So we should be good for next month on that. I did provide a check for our cell phone. It just hasn't been cashed yet, and it's a family plan, so that'll go through at some point. The car payment we currently have set as a goal of $1,005. We managed to put $2,154.32. So that's an extra $1,150 almost. So that is amazing. Really happy with that extra car payment. It definitely helps to reduce the lifetime of that loan that we'll end up paying. Utilities. We budget up to $400, so $288.58 would have been what we had paid the previous month. Looks like our utility bill was a little bit higher, about, I don't know, $5 or so higher in July than it had been in June, but those are variable, so it is what it is, which leaves us with $107.47 left over in that category. So it's definitely not the highest month we've ever had, and it seems to be pretty similar and consistent between the 2 months, which is kind of expected considering our weather hasn't been fluctuating a whole lot over the past couple of months. Utilities, we had budgeted $433.13. Oh, nope, that's groceries. and we spent $415.19. So that means our grocery spending was actually a little bit less in July than it had been in June, which is always amazing. I always feel like groceries are too high because the food just goes away after you eat it, but we're kind of staying in there. I'd love to see our grocery budget under $400, and we're slowly getting there. But we've had months that are $600, and that's why we budget up to that dollar amount. So $415 is amazing. I'll take it. It's a win for me. Toiletries and consumables. Again, we budget up to a certain dollar amount. It goes up to $150. Trying to figure that out. So that's what we had budgeted up to with that $64.33. So that's what we would have spent in June. In July, we only spent $29.34, so that was a little bit less, and it kind of varies. Sometimes you need everything at once, sometimes you don't need anything at all. So that's completely fine. So in August, we'll end up putting in the $29.34, and everything extra that we currently have budgeted will come out and go towards something else, just to keep that at that $150. Transportation, we spent $66. We had to put gas in both of our cars in July, but only once. So that was pretty nice still. I'm liking the work from home type of thing. It's saving us a little bit of money there. For regular expenses, these are things that don't always come out in the month, but we still fund them. There are sinking funds. So we fund them in smaller increments every month. And then when we actually need the money, it's available for us. So car insurance, car registration, Rhode Island visits, auto repair and maintenance had no expenses for us, so it's just more money going into our savings for those. Auto replacement we didn't have to do, and hopefully we won't have to do for another 9 or 10 years, but we'll see on that one. Home repair and maintenance, we had budgeted $60. We spent $37.09, so we've got a little bit left over, and we'll add another $60 to that in August. So eventually, assuming we don't have something big come up that we have to repair, that will just continue growing, and when we do have big expenses, we will hopefully have enough money to cover them. Miscellaneous purchases, we had spent $106.77 back in June. We only spent $60.16 in July, so that's good as well. We budget up to $200 for that, so we still have some money left over. Subscriptions, we didn't have any expenses, so again, that's just money that's added to what we currently have, and then we'll be ready to pay for that when that does come through. I believe most of those are either later in the year or very early in the year. Animals, we currently have funded at $25. We spent $15.89 on Callie, so there's a little bit of money there. And health is just based on what goes through our health savings account. So there's money added in through Lee's paycheck and money taken out when we actually spend the money. We don't actually budget anything for that, so we just kind of leave that alone. We have more money going in than we should ever have to pay out of pocket each year based on our medical plan. So we should never run out of money in that category as long as we're using it for health purposes only. Right, so then in wants, Lee and I both get $50. We both spent under $50, so we'll be adding another $50 in August to the remaining balances. School is $100. That'll be for textbooks and school supplies and whatever I might need for classes starting up in August. So it's coming up soon, but we should hopefully have enough based on my first year back in school. $100 a month seems to be about right to cover those supplies, but we'll make adjustments as needed if that's not accurate. Dining, we spent just over our budgeted $150, but we had some money left over from the previous month, so we still have $7.80. We got really close. I'd like to have seen it just a little bit under, but it didn't happen. But we're not red in that category, so I'll take it. $150 seems doable. I'm sure Lee and I would both say that we would be happy to have the convenience of eating out even more often, but we're able to limit it down to $150 and don't feel like we're depriving ourselves in any way with that. All right, hobbies, fitness, entertainment, and clothing are budgeted at $0. We had no activity for those. Clothing, we try to maintain $600 in that category. So because we didn't spend anything, we are fine for August with that. And the other ones get funded mostly through the wish list. And then once an item is completed and we've received it, then we will take it off the wish list and transfer into the other categories, the proper permanent categories in our budget. Gifts got $10. I made a purchase of $30.71 for a baby shower gift for a cousin. So we still have some money left in there. We don't do much by the way of gifts, so that's completely fine for us. All right, our next category is Lee and Stacy Do Things. So that's for this video channel right now. And we purchased a replacement microphone because I feel like this one that I'm using is not the best. We've had issues with it along the way. So we spent the money on there. I don't know what else we will need to upgrade or replace at some point in the future, so there's a little bit of money left. I don't think we're going to fund it back up to the $300. We just wanted some starting funds to get things working the way we wanted them to. So that was that purchase. And hopefully, they told me that I'll be here on Monday, so future videos will hopefully have a better audio quality to them. Alright, so now we get to the wish list, which is kind of the fun stuff. It's the stuff that we want, and we're prioritizing to make sure we can actually get them and afford them when we do so. So we finally got the track saw. It ended up being just under the $600, so having accurate estimates accounting for tax and shipping and everything definitely comes in handy, so that way you're not over budgeting, but you're covering enough for those expenses to actually go through. So that is completed. That will be moved out into a different category, but I have a check mark in front of that now because it is done. We also got the living room curtains, and we put some money in towards the kitchen remodel for cabinets and hardware, and we spent some of that money. There's just a little bit left, which will be added to as we have extra money. From there, we're going to be budgeting towards the sink and kitchen window, and then insulation, which had been funded, so it has a check mark at the beginning, but we actually pulled the money out of there in order to pay for some of the cabinets and hardware that we ended up purchasing, because that became the next thing that we needed rather than all of the insulation. So we took the extra money out of there, leaving us with an available budget of $0, but we did cover the activity, the $95 that we did purchase, and moved it to other categories. So that's why that one is blue, because it wants more money because we took money out of it. For the drywall, we also spent a little bit of money, and we budgeted just enough to actually make that purchase. And the same thing with the electrical outlets and lights for the kitchen. So Lee had gone through on this one, and he actually figured out exactly what we were going to need. So he has notes with links to everything that we have, and then he totaled up. Originally we had said we need $1,000, and now we're down to $456.05 left that we have to budget. So that's a little bit less than what our $1,000 initial goal says we needed. Based on what we've budgeted so far, we should still need $528.02. So I think we're going to save a little bit of money once that is all said and done, but there's always incidentals that we forget. All right, so that's it for what is actually in July. But because we had extra money left over in a couple of categories, we're also going to switch over to August just to correct some things. And let's see, we only need to have $400 in utilities. We're currently at $507.47. So we are going to change that budgeted amount, and it's going to give us more money to budget to the future. Same thing with groceries. We're gonna push that down to where we need it. Toiletries and consumables will be the same, as will transportation. All right. The regular expenses all should stay exactly the same. And I think everything in wants should as well. Okay, so we should be good on that front. So then the next thing for us to do is to actually close out some of those wish list items. So let's start with the living room curtains because those are going to be nice and easy. Those were all funded in the month of July. Make sure. And for each of the transactions, I have been trying to put a WL for wish list. So in the future, I can report on anything that had been a wish list item that we did fund. So if we start feeling like we're not making progress, I can always pull a report with that information and be like, oh, look at all the things we've purchased so far. All right, so the living room curtains, I think, would properly end up in miscellaneous purchases because we don't have just like a random home purchases. So that's where that's going to end up transferring to. So we are going to switch this transaction from the wish list category to miscellaneous purchases. All right, and then when we come back over to the budget, our miscellaneous purchases is now over, but that's fine because we were just going to transfer that money. So that was $228.88. Since we already have money in to be budgeted, I want to make sure we do this the right way so I don't accidentally put the wrong dollar amounts. Just like I did there. So that was $228 that I added. Let's add the 88 cents. And then we're going to subtract that there. So that is done. So I'm just going to delete the living room curtains. And let's see, what else did we complete? I think the only other one is the kitchen remodel track saw. So some of that money came from this month, but some of it came from previous months as well. So what I'm going to do is go into previous months. So it looks like $64.29 went in June. And the track saw will end up going into probably miscellaneous purchases as well. I might need to break that category out a little bit more at some point, but we'll see. All right, so we are going to move that $64.29. We're just going to remove it from this month. That will free it up for July for the budget. And that's keeping that to be budgeted the same. And then we can go through and transfer that to the miscellaneous purchases again. And it looks like there's a couple of different transactions. So we'll move all of those. I'll just cut that down so we can see the wait list. Or wish list, not wait list. The wish list items. Alright, so that one was transferred. We want anything that has the track saw in there. I think that might have been it. Let's go back and see if I missed anything. Okay, so we're now at $0 for activity, so $596.98 we'll go to miscellaneous purchases, and we want to make sure that that still carries over the extra money. So rather than zeroing it out here, we'll do that. We'll get rid of the money in there and then delete that wish list line item. So then it's just active wish list items. It's still in order as far as the last budget conversation that we had. And when I transferred that over, I realized that miscellaneous purchases is something that we just budget up to the $200. I don't want us to be able to have any extra money in that category be spent and just start spending more and more money in there. I would like to keep it under $200 whenever possible. So I'm going to also adjust this to reach that goal. So we're only going to spend $60.16, or add $60.16, because that's what we spent in July outside of those wish list items. So that keeps us at $200. So that gives us a little bit more money to budget for the future. So I think that sums up everything in our July video. Please let me know if there's anything that I didn't really cover. If you have any questions about our budget, how we do things, go ahead and leave them in a comment below, and I will see you next week. Bye.